Ready in
Alright,
3, 2, 1, go.
Hey, folks, welcome again to another exciting episode. We're your host. He's Scott Campbell. I'm Cameron Wilson, and we're going to get right into it. Scott, what are you feeling today, buddy?
I'm doing a cryptid called the Missouri Monster, also known as Momo. It's not the long-haired Momo either, the scary girl. It's a Bigfoot-like creature. So,
Oh, I like that. It sounds a little bit to the counterpart of what I'm doing. I'm, of course, doing the legendary Windigo, which is some people, depending on legends, kind of confused with Sasquatches, even though there's a lot of differences. And they're mostly affiliated with northern states and Canada. But you want me to go first, or you want to go first? It's up to you, pal.
I'll start off this time.
Okay.
Okay, so the Momo is also known. Well, the Missouri Monster is also known as Momo, the monster, and it's an ape-like creature, kind of like Bigfoot. They attribute it to Bigfoot, and it's been cited several times in Louisiana and Missouri in around the 70s. However, it's supposed to be bipedal, like an ape type of creature. About 7 feet tall, covered in dark hair, and stinks. Kind of like the skunk ape type of thing, which I'll get back to that in a few minutes. The most well-known sighting occurred on July 11th in 1972 when two boys were playing on the outskirts of Louisiana, Missouri. Actually, the city is called Louisiana. It's in Missouri. Their older sister was in the kitchen when she heard her brother screaming. She looked out the window and she observed a dark-haired, man-like creature holding what appeared to be a dead dog. She described the creature as being a pumpkin-shaped head and large orange eyes. Many sightings occurred that year, but notably the local fire chief and member of the city council who reported driving along a creek bed when he saw a massive upright creature in his vehicle headlights. As a result of these encounters, a 20-person posse was formed to hunt the creature, but nothing was ever found. And so, in 2019, a docudrama horror film called Momo, the Missouri Monster was released and features a dramatization of the events of 1972. And other than that, Six Flags in St. Louis had a ride that operated from 1973 to 1994. It was called the Momo, named after the creature. Other than that, there's not really much known about it, but no sightings since. I believe that it's a lot like the skunk ape. If you ever heard of the skunk ape,
they're more in Florida, I believe, right? Missouri's kind of southern Midwest-ish, but I mean the skunk ape is what I'm more familiar with in terms of stinking really bad. I'm sure the association came with the fact that it's so close to swamps or the Everglades, but even the description you're describing sounds a lot like the skunk ape.
I think they're all kind of attributed Bigfoot, skunk ape, even out if you go out to other countries like in Asia where they call it other names. I know erect pendek is another name they use for it out in like Southeast Asia and all that. And those areas out there, they all have sightings of creatures, and they're all kind of similar. They're all 7 feet tall, long dark hair. They've all got to be related in somehow. I mean, some may stink, some may not, some may have they're all roughly between 6 and 9 feet tall. Usually solitary. Sometimes I've heard where they're with little ones, or they might be one or two. But yeah, I mean, Momo is just another one of those Bigfoot or Sasquatch or cryptids that are kind of all in the same type of category, if you want to call it that. Like with other cryptids, you have categories like Loch Ness Monster and Champ are kind of in the same category. You got Jersey Devil and Mothman kind of in the same categories. And now you have all these ones in the same type of category. So maybe they're seeing the same thing, just naming it something different. And that's really all we got about Momo.
Yeah, no, that actually is a good point because we said it before. Sounds very similar to a Sasquatch-ish, or even to the Wendigo creature that I'm doing, which there are some people that would probably say it's Sasquatch-ish, kind of, but not quite so. When you initially said Momo, I thought you were referring to that folklore Japanese social media challenge that happened a few years ago, and it was that humanoid person with the long Reddit-looking eyes and long hair, like, "Hi, Momo, kids."
That thing was so. That thing is so creepy looking, and I'd be more terrified of that thing than seeing this Momo creature running around in the woods.
Yeah, because that thing was like, grab your daddy's favorite tool and slice it across your arm until you don't feel the blood. Like, yeah, it had like a weird voice and everything else.
Oh my god!
That was also when there was crazy challenges going on, with the Tide Pod challenge, which I don't know. Kids are always thinking of well, a kid didn't really come up with that, or so we think, but yeah, no, I really, that's interesting. I never really heard of that Missouri-ish Sasquatch, humanoid creature. When was the last?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, when was the last sighting of Momo?
1972. There hasn't been one since.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it's not recent, but the funny thing about that is, and I watch a lot of those Bigfoot programs on the Discovery Channel and History Channel, and I very much so believe in Sasquatch and all that, but it's kind of hard not to. It's kind of hard not to believe in it for those that don't believe in it. When there's no evidence, and I'm using Sasquatch as the main character because they're all kind of tied into one another. One, there's no evidence, hardcore evidence. I mean, you got like footprints and stuff like that. Okay, that's pretty good evidence. And you also have people that, firemen, policemen, blah blah blah, who have seen these. So that's credible, just like UFOs. But there's no evidence. And when you see something on one of those programs, like say Bigfoot Hunters and Search for Bigfoot and shows like that, you'll see guys who are hunters, and they'll be like, "I had my gun trained on it, and it scared me so much I put the gun down." I'm like, why didn't you shoot the thing? Then you would have had proof that you killed one. I mean, not saying you want to kill it, but you want evidence that there exists.
This past, I think it was September or October, there was a Michigan hunter. He claimed he saw two Sasquatches fighting and said that the smallest one was like dwarf the size of Shaquille O'Neal.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. The way he described, I'm not going to say it's on fake or whatever, but he went on saying that, like, yeah, they kept fighting, which I don't know Sasquatches are very strong, but I also don't know if they would fight because there's never really been humans attacks in terms of Sasquatch. I'll get into that in a minute with my next cryptozoid coming up. But yeah, I mean, for something that's so elusive, the guy claimed that they saw the creature, or the Bigfoot, and that it just went into the water away from them. I think the guy was in the woods a little bit too long and kind of got his brain fried a little bit, just because the way he described the whole event just sounded bizarre and crazy. But nonetheless, though, like, because he made it sound like he watched the thing go on for like 10 minutes, but if you're going to watch a Sasquatch fight, like, that's more than enough time to get your camera out. I can understand you're on the trail and then you see the thing and it's elusive and you try to get your camera and it's fuzzy and kind of eludes you. But if you're like describing this thing, watching this thing, saying it's fighting another one, like I think after like a few seconds, be like, oh, I gotta get a photo of this.
Yeah.
Because the first person that's going to get a clear actual shot of a Sasquatch, I mean, they're probably going to be like internet famous instantly. You're talking, you know.
And I love those people who say, "Oh, that was probably a bear that you saw." And I said, if you can't tell the difference between a bear and a Sasquatch, I mean, a bear standing up on two legs, they have short, stubby back legs. If you can't tell, and then another thing, if a bear's going to chase you, they're going to chase you on four legs, not on two.
And they're also going to catch. Well, they're both probably going to catch you. So
right,
because bears can run pretty. Even a black bear can outrun a human if it wanted to.
But a bear has stubby little back legs, and they run. You know, they stand up. They kind of waddle when they walk. I mean,
they can't stand for a long time. So.
No. So you can tell the difference between a bear and a Sasquatch. I mean,
and in terms of the last 20 years, in terms of physical evidence, like fur, DNA, or whatever found that was believed to be Sasquatch by Sasquatch hunters, I don't want to say 10 times out of 10, but so far it's always showed up as either coyote DNA, sometimes wolf DNA or moose DNA or bear DNA. So, with technology getting more advanced with drones and people cutting woods down, we'll probably see a Sasquatch sooner rather than later. But I don't know, the thing's been so elusive for thousands and thousands of years. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. All right, let's hear about the Wendigo.
So yes, similar to, in terms of appearance or the shock, a lot of people would confuse a Wendigo with a Sasquatch. A Wendigo is typically in Native America, First Nation literature, folklore, because even before European settlers came, the first tribe nations in Canada had legends, myths, stories about Wendigos. And so, and typically the Algonquin tribe out of Canada, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, was like one of the first tribes in the Canada area to have these folklore stories about Wendigos. And that's also probably most likely we're going to see a Sasquatch, because most sightings of Wendigos happen in Canada, Midwestern United States, as well as the Northeast. They're associated with the cold weather months, as well as fall. Some people believe that Wendigos hibernate for months, even up to years. They have been seen during the summer months. The physical characteristics of Wendigos are, a humanoid-looking thing, grayish skin, kind of a skeleton-looking body to some degree, because they almost look like they're starving. But they are big. They are massively strong. They have antlers similar to a moose. And like I said before, you normally see them during the winter months. Probably people confuse them with the abominable small man or the Yeti. So typically, you can also find Wendigos in the Great Lakes regions, but like I said, that's in the Midwest. So the crazy thing about Wendigos is they're believed to be one of those things that's part spirit, part human, because most origins of Wendigos happen when they tend to go after people that are either greed, lust, gluttony, or selfish, as well as people that are sort of starving to death of hunger or freezing to death. Typically, and a lot of times, some Native American tribes believe that the spirit of a Wendigo will possess a human that's either selfish, gluttony, displaying any of the seven sins of man, or freezing to death. And another association is a lot of times that, obviously, in the old times, when, of course, Yukon, Canada, before the European settlers came, North America was a cold place back in those times. Some people believe that when people were alone and not sharing with their other Native American neighbors, that their greed would make them turn to a Wendigo, or that they'd freeze to death, turn to a Wendigo. Another reason why they're associated with greed is because, back then, survival of the fittest in terms of the winter months. And if you really weren't helping out anybody else, you're selfish, greed, or whatever. And like I said, the spirit would normally possess the human that is being greedy, makes them more susceptible to turn into a Wendigo. Things that Wendigos eat, quite honestly, it's believed that they eat human flesh. It's kind of the main thing that they eat. Supposedly, they like to hunt humans more than animals and other types of prey. They tend to only hunt humans in the lone wolf category, meaning like they'll hunt a human that's either alone or away from another group of people. They don't really seem to come up to a group of people or to startle them in that sense. But yeah, so eating human flesh and eating blood is supposedly what they need. They supposedly need it to live or else they'll die. Depending on who you ask, Wendigos can't be killed. And I don't want to say they're bulletproof, but they're known for being strong, fast, elusive. They're known to stalk humans, follow them in the woods. There are some legends that say that the only way to kill a Wendigo is to get a shaman like myself to do a ritual or a spell to remove the evilness. Other tribes will say that you can't do that. Another myth legend is if you cut the frozen heart of a Wendigo, which is probably pretty hard to do because some people say they're bulletproof and massively strong, but if you take it, the frozen piece of their heart, destroy it, melt it, that's another way of killing them. Them not eating as well. It's believed that Wendigos can make other Wendigos by sometimes when they're preying or eating a human victim, sometimes that victim turns into a Wendigo as well, kind of like the sense of a vampire biting a person, turning into a vampire. Let me see.
Or a werewolf.
Huh? Yeah, that.
Or a werewolf.
Also, and that's also another thing too. Like some people believe that if you a vampire, if you bite another person a certain number of times, will turn into a werewolf as well. That's another theory too. But yeah, but Wendigos are known, and this is the thing too. Like a lot of people confuse them with Sasquatches or kind of try to use interchangeable word, but there is a big differences. Like Wendigos are known to be violent. They're known to be angry. They're known to be destructive to the environment. And that makes a lot of sense because given the origin stories of Wendigos being born from selfish people that are on the verge of freezing to death, gluttony, loss, or needing food or hungry, you're mentally already in a deprived state. And a lot of times that believed to be crazy. There actually is a scientific term for a Wendigo illness, and it was discovered in Canada. Anyways, the term pretty much resides in somebody being calm and then just sort of having a mental breakdown and doing harm and breaking down to others, hurting other people nearby, depending on like the cause of the reason. And sometimes it happens out of nowhere. So these are interesting creatures nonetheless. So, but it's just very, very bizarre because, like I said, they need human flesh to live. They only hunt one human at a time. These things are known to be big. And most likely you are going to see them, in the Great Lakes, and even in New England, probably closer up in Maine towards, Native American tribes, First Nation tribes going into Canada, even the Rockies. But outside of that, Wendigos were never really talked about in other parts of the world. It's normally a Native American thing. Obviously, there has been a lot of sightings supposedly amongst the European settlers of seeing them too. But outside of that, Wendigos are mostly seen in that, this part of the world, Northeast, Midwest. Wendigos are also too, they typically, travel alone. So that is, I would love to see Bigfoot or any type of Sasquatch, possibly the Yeti, if we ever go to Russia. But a Wendigo, based off of, being associated with all the negativity and the destruction, that's probably something I don't want to see. It sounds kind of like, part pig, part humanoid, kind of like Man Bear Pig from South Park when it was the scariest thing.
Has there been any sightings recently of the Wendigo?
There has. Every now and again there is, just like even, but in terms of mass, there hasn't been. I know there's been a bunch in Maine recently. There's actually been a Sasquatch sighting up near the border, not the border. It's like on the 3 miles from the border of Canada, which, but that's probably more of a Wendigo because you're more likely to see a Wendigo in deep Canada as well.
It's interesting, it's like you often wonder when, and I was talking about this today with somebody, you often wonder just in general, anything in general. Yeah, we're talking about extraterrestrials. We're talking about cryptids. We're talking about paranormal ghosts and whatever. Now, and I might have mentioned this before in another episode, but people who see these things, okay, they gotta be seeing something. Now, I know some of them are bogus, but you got a lot of people over the course of mankind who has, and a lot of credible people. If they don't exist, what the hell are they seeing? I believe in ghosts more than I believe in anything else. But what the hell are they seeing if they're not seeing what, you know what I mean? It's like,
I do think Windigos sightings, depending on the weather, snow, the angle, easily you could look at a moose and be like, it might be a Wendigo just because they are affiliated with having a horn, pointy face a little bit, being massively big, massively strong.
and moose live in the cold too, and they're huge, and they're
And
yeah.
Windigos are believed that antlers just like a moose, or so that would explain that. In terms of Bigfoot, it's probably just more of maybe depending on the angle, or Shaquille O'Neal in a big suit.
Yeah, it could be. Hey, I saw a Progressive commercial or something that there's a Bigfoot named Clyde, so it could be somebody. It could be just Bigfoot that just want love and attention, and then we approach them and we're all mean and nasty to them, and they get all pissed off at us.
There was a guy in Oregon last year. I think I brought it up when you did the Bigfoot topic a couple of weeks ago, and he bought like one of those things that hunters wear, like that grassy, swampy, wavy thing. It makes you look big. It makes you look like your cousin Ed or Swamp Man or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And he, for a couple of days, he did it as a hoax. And I think one of the reports went on Fox News, and he kept doing it as a hoax. Unfortunately, he wound up getting killed and hit by a car because he scared somebody doing the hoax and got killed doing it. So
man, that backfired in his face.
yeah, no, it did. And honestly, like it is sad. It's sad when somebody dies, but I'm sure somebody was like, oh, like it's kind of like a disgusting, weird chuckle. But yeah, I don't know. I can understand why somebody would want to do the hoax, especially out in Oregon or Washington, because that would be an ideal place for a Sasquatch to live in terms of our country. In terms of Massachusetts, like you were born in Reading, there was a Sasquatch sighting in Breakheart Reservation, which I mean, wow. I don't think that was Bigfoot, to be quite honest, because Breakheart Reservation is a 500-acre woods. It's a good size for, recreational walk, but in terms of a humanoid creature living anonymously for months on end, that's right next to the highway. I think I don't think that's a good thing. But and also too, in terms of the evidence of going back, what are people seeing? Like the only clear evidence is that like that Peter Bine video from the 70s.
Yeah.
And they recently did a special on it where they even said that like when you look at the feet and the way it's moving, even back in those days, it would have been hard. I was a mascot for multiple sports teams. I was, the little devil from the New Jersey Devils NHL team. I was also Wally, the mascot, for a little bit with the Red Sox. Not on game day, special events, going to supermarkets, hugging kids. I did the little Spinners, which is a minor league baseball team. UMass, a little mascot, and a couple of the Cape Cod summer league baseball teams. So I know what it's like I'm about 6 feet even, maybe 6'1". It says on my license. I like to cheat now, but I'm probably 6 even. So when I wear those mascot costumes, I'm probably like 10 feet tall, and it's impossible to. I'm not going to sit here and say that those videos are real, the ones from the 70s, that famous one, the Peter Bynes one, but in terms of the foot movement in it, when you see the feet, that does look pretty real, because back in those days, it was hard to make a costume that big, or you would have a flexible heel or a foot going in with the person walking. Back in those, like the only way you could wear a suit like that, even a big guy like me, and walk comfortably, is you have to put a tennis shoe in those types of costumes, and that would have been noticeable, like with the digital software and everything we have and analyzing. It would have been obvious today that those were tennis shoes, and it's not. It does look like that natural foot placement of whatever it is wearing is, because even in 2021, it's hard to make a mascot costume for the person to be over 8 feet. And the only way for stability is to have tennis shoes where you're not really able to walk with the arc. It's just like flat. Like, so long story short, if you've seen that video,
I have.
That's really the only, I mean, in terms of my first-hand experience, and by trade, I have been an environmental scientist, so being a scientist, but I would say, like, it's definitely, back in those days, it was hard to make those costumes. So, and I can tell you right now, those aren't tennis shoes, and those were really the only ways that you could get into those costumes comfortably, walk around for a long extended time. Like, I'll tell you right now, if I get my Wally costume, put it on, I have to wear tennis shoes. Those are the only shoes you can wear and move around. If I put regular running shoes, you're gonna fall, you're gonna look awkward.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I could say in terms of why I do believe to some degree that video being real. Like, I know there's a lot of conspiracies out. Some people said it was fake. Some people said it wasn't. You and I can do a special episode on that too. But yeah, no, but that's just, I'm just kind of following up with when you're talking about what are people actually seeing. And then that's really the only non-blurry possible evidence of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and for most cryptozoids that we have.
Okay, well, before we start sports, I want to just, you mentioned mascots. I want to tell you a little funny story before I've been watching a lot of mascot things on YouTube. And what's your favorite mascot of all of them?
Oh, well, Philadelphia Fanatic smells a lot.
He is hilarious, the Philadelphia Fanatic.
Looks great. I want to say in terms of being a dope, I'd probably go with that one. It is funny too, when you go to the Washington Nationals ballpark, when they have the president's race, like George Washington.
I've seen that. That's funny.
I'm sure there's a couple other ones.
I like the Astros. What's his name? He's got these two little antennas. I forget his name. He's hilarious. Oh my! You should see some of the stuff that they do to him. But if you get a chance, go on YouTube and watch Philly Fanatic against Tommy Lasorda.
I mean, like I said, Philly Fanatic was definitely one of my favorites because, you know, I'm not going to be biased here. I'm not going to say Pat the Patriot because Pat the Patriot's kind of a professional mascot because the guy's a champion. He's not, you don't like hear anything about him falling down or being a clown. Wally's cool. The Celtics mascot, it was that guy Lucky for so many years, that little Irish guy that could do all those flips and those parkour exercises. So, but yeah, no, it's that's college mascots are kind of funny too.
But I do like the Philly Fanatic because he just goes crazy. I've seen him throw popcorn at people. I've seen him do all sorts of crazy things.
Don't call me he, because I'm sure we're getting to that point where mascots are going to be able to, you know, self-sex identify, or they're going to want to use a certain pronoun. But, you know, that's just...
But anyways, I just wanted to say that because I was watching Philly Fanatic's greatest bloopers, and oh man, I was laughing for hours when I watched that because he just gets me cracking up. And I'm like, why doesn't Wally do some things like that? Like do some funny, silly, come out riding on like a four-wheeler and they steal his four-wheeler and they run away with it and stuff. It's funny. But anyways,
I do like real mascots too, like Ugla, the Georgia Bulldog. That one's cool. LSU has a real tiger. I don't know what they call them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No Texas fans. I hope nobody attacks me, but they used to have a bull called maybe Bama. I don't know. I can't remember the name. Well, I don't think anybody from Texas watches this yet. So, but yeah, let's get into sports because bye week. I'm kind of, you know, it's weird because we had Tom Brady for 20 years. The guy pretty much like woke up out of bed and was almost guaranteed to win every Sunday. Where we went through the dreadful year of Cam Newton, and a year later we actually have what looks like to be, I don't want to say the next thing. Things can change within a year or two, but right now Mac Jones does look like a pretty good team. The Patriots, having a rookie cute quarterback with a nasty defense like that in first place with the division with the number 1 seed with 4 weeks to go, I'm not going to say it's unheard of, but it's unlikely where teams been winning more and more rookie quarterbacks the last couple of years as opposed to the pre-2000 and Andrew Luck days, I guess. Because I remember when guys like Alex Smith came out, Peyton Manning, even when I were kids when we were younger, the thing was, if you're a rookie quarterback, you're either going to sit for a year or two and learn, or you're just going to get the shit beat out of you because for the longest time, I want to say from 1974 to, I could be wrong, I don't know if you have any fact checkers, but maybe Vince Young, like from 1974 or 78 to early 2000s, the rookie of the year was normally either a running back or a wide receiver. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of teams didn't really start rookies as often, going back to original football as they do now. And even when they started rookie quarterbacks, of the trend of starting, a lot of them sucked right out the gates. Like I'm sure you remember Alex Smith. People thought he was a bust for years until Jim Harbaugh came before he went to Michigan. So, and obviously Mac Jones is looking good. He's a rookie. Last year, Justin Herbert from Oregon, he was a rookie of the year. And you have other guys like Andrew Luck. I think Baker Mayfield won rookie of the year. And that's the only thing I worry about with Mac Jones, because Baker Mayfield's rookie year, he threw 28 touchdowns on playing, I think 14 games. And I still like Baker. I don't think he's bad. I do like his personality. I like his moxie. Love his commercials. And his wife is a smoke show. But I put it to you this way. If Mac Jones looks like Baker Mayfield, looks like what Baker Mayfield looks like now in 3 years, then I am going to be a little bit worried, because Baker Mayfield was good his rookie year. He was never awful. But for a guy to have Josh Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, that nasty offensive line, and a defense with Myles Garrett and those corners, and to still, I don't want to say regress, because Mayfield's surrounded by more talent than most young quarterbacks get. We talk about how lucky of a situation Mac Jones is in, but to be quite honest, outside of Rashad Stevens and Damian Harris and some of the linemen, there's not a lot of guys on the Patriots offensive skill position that you take over another team. Hunter Henry's catching touchdowns. Maybe Juju Smith will catch on. I mean, I still think he has a bit of upside. He's athletic, but Aguilar is a deep field threat speed guy. The speed's there, but his production in terms of his hands it comes and goes. And obviously Kendrick Bourne's coming on, but nonetheless, though, that wide receiver core is not nearly as good as what Cleveland has, which goes to show you, maybe, Baker can only do so much. And this is not really to go off topic here, because I'm going to talk about the Patriots, but it's just some teams wait forever to find the next quarterback after having a legend. I
think a lot of them I think the raw reason the Patriots are successful is we have the one thing other teams don't have. And that's Coach Belichick.
I'll be honest. Football is a result business. And, at the end of the day, as long as you win, hey, for example, when we talk about those 6 Super Bowls that Tom Brady won for us, all of them, I think, besides the last one, were less than one score. And also every Super Bowl that Tom Brady lost in New England was less than one score. So, nonetheless, it's that does go to show you football being a game of inches. And when you're winning games by that close or that much of a margin, you do have to bring coach and into play, because when you're winning by one score or two score, no, not two score, but one score in the biggest game, in hindsight, it's easy to look back and say if you did one or two things differently, the team X or team Y could have won. Sometimes I do think Belichick's a little arrogant because what we're seeing is Tom Brady is still good. The guy is probably going to win the MVP at age 44. And I think he's either first or second in terms of touchdown passes. And it's weird because obviously if Tom Brady still was here, Mac Jones wouldn't be. So it's,
and also in his defense too, we didn't know Brady was going to be lasting this long because most quarterbacks don't. Most quarterbacks don't, though. Like, go back to Brett Favre, look at it, Roethlisberger. He sucks this year.
Well, Roethlisberger sucked last year. He's like 37 now. But I do think a lot of that is more of Tom Brady's been a monk when it comes to eating. Like, he was in his early 30s. He was cautious about not eating hamburgers, avocado ice cream. Ben Roethlisberger, nasty quarterback. When he was 23, he was arrogant because he was riding a motorcycle without a helmet. He's a big guy. He's young. He's rich. Mm-hmm. But when you look at Big Ben, like he looks fat. Mm-hmm. Like, and I'm not to sound mean, but he doesn't look good. He looks cash. He looks more cash than Cam Newton. Cam Newton is cash, but Cam Newton is still physical, amazing shape, and looks like he's built out of granite. The guy looks like he's built like me. Well, he's bigger than me, but in terms of being ripped and muscular, we'll do a summer show with my shirt off outside. But
Cam can still run and score touchdowns.
Yeah, he looked pretty bad last week, 5 for 20. Yeah, he wasn't screaming "I'm back" with his helmet off. Hey, Cam, I love you. Make our name sound right, okay?
But we didn't know Brady was going to be like. I would have thought that maybe he might not have been as good as he was. No one knew. Who knew? And Belichick's been known to do that. Look at Richard Seymour. And he was right 90% of the time. I mean,
a couple times it has blown up in his face, but in terms of Brady, even though he was, his last year and a half in New England wasn't his best statistically, but let's be honest, like his last year here, he had a banged up Julian Edelman. He had a Mohamed Sanu who, I don't want to say kind of sucked, was overrated on a bum ankle. Philip Dorsett, in and out of the lineup. Brady wasn't really throwing Jacoby Myers. The team cut Antonio Brown, which, Antonio Brown's another issue. That guy is just trying to be the next OJ, I think. He it's insane how many issues this guy has. Like this guy, like you know about the Antonio Brown situation where the chef accuses him of the fake vaccine cards and wound up being true. The whole reason why that became a story is because Antonio Brown didn't want to pay him $10,000.
What?
And because he didn't want to pay him that $10,000. Now he's losing $500,000 because of game suspensions, being fined by the league, and possibly being cut. And it's like I'm just saying, like, that guy needs help, and it's sad because honestly, like, I think a couple of years when Antonio Brown's out of the league, he had CTE, or was at least going to have it. And unfortunately, I think he's going to wind up going down the path of O.J. Simpson, except I don't think he's going to be as funny because at least O.J. I'll say this about O.J. We all know he did it. I know he did it. He did it. But he was encouraging people to get vaccines. So, and to wear their mask.
Did you hear, though, the latest on O.J. Simpson? A couple of years ago, speaking of football, they said, and I don't know how true this is, but I heard somewhere that his son may have been responsible for the death.
I think that's a conspiracy theory because this.
And he actually came in the house and saw that his son did it, and kind of like didn't want his son to get in trouble.
I mean, that's an interesting theory. I don't think it's somebody who killed his own mom. I can understand Ron Goldman, the boyfriend, maybe, or the friend, however you want to refer to him. That's very well possible. Because regardless if OJ did it or didn't do it, the guy had a CTE. Even minus the whole Nicole Brown thing, he kept getting himself in trouble for stupid things. And unfortunately, I hope Antonio Brown doesn't really go down that fate, but it seems like he's going down there because after New England cut him, he winds up not wanting to pay the guy that delivers moving stuff. His ex-girlfriend doesn't want to pay some painter money for the painting of him. Like, this guy is self-destructive. Like,
is that why he's out now?
oh, he's out because he forged a fake vaccine card, supposedly, which is a felony, technically.
Oh my god! I thought he was just out because he was hurt. I'm like, oh, why isn't he playing? And then you told me that, and I'm like, oh my god, not again.
The thing is, it all started because he doesn't want to pay that chef $10,000. The thing is maybe he's out of money because a guy like Antonio Brown, who keeps getting in trouble, bro, he probably pays more in lawyer fees than you are in school loans. So. It's the guy just, yeah, I hate to say it, but, unfortunately, 80% of NFL players, there's a reason why a lot of them end up going broke for synonymous reasons. Sometimes it's the Kurt Schilling situation where they made a bad investment deal and didn't know how to manage it. And their arrogance of being this alpha male on the field kind of doesn't let them swallow their pride. And then there's also the fact that some guys only play 1 or 2 years, but they spend that first year paycheck as if they're getting that for the next 20 years. Like, when you're 22 getting, a $600,000 check and then you leave the NFL, some people realize, oh, it's not that easy to make 600,000. Like, but
I know, look at that guy who used to play for the Patriots there, the one that was in drugs and then he ended up getting suspended. He used to play for Cleveland.
Josh Brown.
Yeah,
Gordon.
Josh Gordon.
He was actually, and he's a sad case because going back to 2014, he's had 2 whole years suspended. I think he's been suspended a total of 8 times from the NFL. And that, unfortunately, I hope he gets help because, if you can't keep your head on straight, then and it's all weed, unfortunately. I was always told that weed's not addictive. Apparently it is for this guy because
you got a great young promising career and he was good.
He was good even when he came back to Brady, but
yeah.
Now this has also led to even though Brady's last year here, he still had 24 touchdowns and he was throwing to a banged up Edelman. And
yeah.
But
I don't know. I can't understand why some of these people do what they do. But at any rate, well, I guess that'll do it for another episode of the Scary Creeptastic podcast. Cam, once again, thanks, man. Good show as always. And we'll be back with another episode
probably
as soon as possible. And everybody, take care. And Cam, I'll be in touch, man.
Hey, talk to you later, buddy. Stay safe,
all right.
y'all.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thank you.